welcome back. Show number 6. Can't believe it's 6 weeks into this thing. I decided to go live, had no idea what I was doing, and I think every week it gets a little bit better. Number 1, check my hat. You like my hat? I'm golfing. Golf season is back, which is tremendously exciting. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And the hat is actually kind of fun because my hair is getting to be a real mess, and I'm starting to look like Cindy Lou Who in Dr. Seuss. Today I've sort of titled the show The Return of Leadership, because if you follow me online, you will have seen that I had my first paid client gig this week from the home broadcast studio. And I come away convinced from that what I have been working on here is extremely real, has tremendous potential. And with all the speakers, bureaus, and agents that I'm talking to around the world, I'm quickly learning nobody else is doing the type of high-end production that I'm doing here. So the potential, oops, wrong button. I also have a new iPad program, which I'm using to flip between slides, because last week I accidentally turned the volume off. So look, every single weekend we're learning something absolutely new while we go into the show. And that's a really good theme. Things I learned this week. This studio is a magical adventure. Before I get to the issue of leadership, I keep peeling back the layer of the onion. So over here on the top, I figured out how to put in something called a widget, which will play through my social media handles, because the whole thing is to try to build an online audience. Twitch name, I don't have a Twitch name, so I got to figure out how to take that out. But that's another layer of the onion that I'm peeling back, which is there's just so many fascinating elements of what I can do in here. The more important window is this one over here, the chat window. First time I'm using it, I really can't test this, so you could actually give it a try. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, apparently if you're on YouTube, you can type something in and it should come back, hopefully, to this window. No idea if it's going to work. It's part of this voyage to try to build some interactivity into the program. I've seen some other folks do it, and there's no real way to go with it except to go live. So I'm going to leave that running. We'll come back to that window later on and actually see if it worked. And look, every single week, I'm learning something new, because this is a very fascinating way. So what did I learn new this week? Well, golf is back. Golf has returned here in the province of Ontario, Canada, where I lived. We are slowly getting back to normal. But it is a very different normal. It is an entirely new normal. It is unlike a normal that we've never known before. And earlier this week, for the private club of which I am a member, I edited a video that they used to give their members guidance on the process of returning to the golf course. All the steps that we need to undertake, all the things that we need to do to carefully social distance, all of the things that we need to consider as we try to return to the world in this vast, new, and very different normal. And I think this is but a microcosm of what is going to happen as we somehow begin to get back to the world. So they had a very detailed set of instructions on what we needed to do and what we need to be cautious of and what we need to be wary of, and the waivers we had to sign and the process we had to go through. And look, just the process of getting to the golf course and getting out to do 18 holes is so fundamentally different, it's staggering. And that's what we're going to witness, and we are already witnessing, as we go back to the world of the office, maybe not, as manufacturing tries to come back, as retail tries to open up. One day soon, doctors, regular doctor checkups, haircuts, things like that. The world is entirely different. And that's part of the discussion that I had with my client this week. And I'll get a little bit into that. So that's been an experience. The other experience that's happening here is, hey, we got a studio upgrade happening. I drive my wife crazy because we've put in place this studio. We've painted the wall. I'm always looking around for the next big opportunity to do something new. And I will admit, a couple of days ago, I was looking over at this corner of the studio. It's to the left of what you see on screen. There's a little section of a wall there. And I'm looking at that, and I'm watching what a lot of folks are doing online in terms of how they are reaching out to people in this new and virtual world. And I know I have to continually shake things up. I need to continually challenge what I am doing to engage viewers with this show and with the private client engagements, which I have done and which I will continue doing in the future. So I'm looking at that and I'm thinking there's an opportunity for a close-up shot, a little more interview style, a little bit more of an intimate setting. So with that, we're beginning to build studio number 2. We're going to have these dramatic new lights in the background, which will let me, give a little bit of shading, a close-in shot. We're going to have a plant. We're going to have my books laid out. We're going to work on this next week. And that will give me an opportunity to be a little bit more innovative in terms of what I do, because already I put in place 2 different camera angles by which I can flip between my shots and just, try to engage people in a new and different way, because we need to do things that are different. The other big news is that my wife is now a production assistant. She's got a new job. The poor soul, she's worked at home with me for, coming on 30 years, and she has to put up with my lack of focus and my inability to keep a schedule, and getting this show live going every single week. There's a long checklist of things we need to do to get it off the ground. So she's actually going through that with me now to make sure that we don't have hiccups, I don't unplug a microphone, and things go wrong. Okay, so what have I seen this week? Well, number one, I think we're witnessing the biggest explosion in creativity since the Renaissance. 10 minutes before I went live here today, I was just having a look at my Facebook feed, and a very good friend of mine had posted a thing that you're having boring Zoom calls. You can actually add a goat to your next online video call. Not a word of a lie. There's actually a farm that you can go to, and it will, oh, look at that. That's not working. I got to hit the right screen because I didn't have that up. And it will actually take you to a website by which you can bring along a meeting to your goat. And I could quickly scroll down the list here to show you what is possible. They have different names, they have different personalities, and for £5 British, you can bring a goat into your next meeting. This is an absolutely fascinating world that we are living in. Every single moment you see something new, and I think that's one of the most inspiring things as an innovation guy. Just the massive levels of creativity that are unfolding here. So, leadership issues. The concept of this show, the return of leadership. What I have noticed in the last week, and really over the last 2 weeks, is a lot of clients, a lot of inquiries, a lot of companies beginning to think, moving away from the crisis mode of COVID-19 and beginning to think about what do we do now as this economy unfolds? Where do we need to go? What do we need to align ourselves to? What are the number of queries from organizations with respect to what might be happening as we go forward into the future? And clearly my mindset is, if you've been following me, we are not going to see any sort of return to where we were in the previous world. We are not going back to normal. We're not flipping a switch and suddenly finding ourselves in this world in which everything is as it was before. I think we need to align ourselves to a dramatically new normal. So from a leadership perspective, I think what I'm witnessing is people are sort of moving beyond the dazed and confused stage. Shout out to Led Zeppelin there, with respect to the speed with which this global economic meltdown has occurred. They're now moving to the next phase. What do we do? What are the leadership strategies we should pursue? What are the concepts that we should have put in place? More importantly, what are the trends that might unfold and are unfolding around us right now that we might pursue as opportunities? The challenge remains the same type of thing that I saw in 2002 and 2008, is some of these organizations are really indecisive. They're still stuck. And you will know the phrase I've been using for this in the past is aggressive indecision. Companies have become very indecisive. They've become aggressively indecisive. They're not quite sure what is happening, when it's happening, what the future might hold. And so they do the natural thing. They're going to sit and wait. They're not going to make the decisions that they need to make in order to get ahead. And you got to address that issue. You have to be realistic about what might happen as we go back to this new weird normal. I found this little cartoon, and I used it in my client event this week. This describes a very real and potential pathway for a lot of regions in the world. We already saw this unfolding this week in China, where they've gone back into lockdown. We're seeing a lot of sections of the U.S. economy try to open up. And, there's a real scientific belief that as we do that, the numbers are going to spike again. We're going to see an increasing number of people impacted by this, an increasing number of deaths, and, things just get shaky all over again. And I think that's the real mindset you need to align yourself to. It's not like we're going back to where we were in the olden days 3 months ago. Everything has changed. Everything is different. Everything is so profoundly impacted by this. And I think what leaders are now beginning to focus upon is, okay, given that fact, what do we now do for the next 3 months, the next 6 months, but more important, what do we do over a 1-year basis, 2-year basis, 10-year basis? How do we challenge our strategies, and where do we go? Think about the devastation that has occurred in the global economy. We have witnessed the absolute decimation of the retail sector. Before this happened in the olden days, I spoke at a lot of retail conferences, and I actually filmed a couple of retail clips about 3 weeks before the shutdown began about the future of retail. And look at the future of retail now. I mean, we know it's dead, it's dying. It was dying before, and parts of it, we are now seeing the death knell of what is occurring. We're going to see massive behavioral change in the store. We're already seeing that. The whole process of going shopping and trying to do something has fundamentally changed. And if you're going to go out to a visit with your family physician, if you're going to try and return to the gym, if you're going to simply try and go and get a haircut, the entire process is going to be different. This is all happening in the context in which there is massive economic pain out there. 30 million Americans unemployed. 3 million Canadians unemployed. I mean, the numbers are staggering, and we have never seen anything like this since the Great Depression. I was out in the golf course yesterday, and I said to someone that, if you think about what is occurring here, 3 big previous economic calamities in the last 100 years, the Great Depression, the 2 world wars, and now COVID-19. This is not 2008, this is not 2001. This is bigger, this is more significant. And this is so transformative because entire industries are changing, entire jobs are changing, entire careers are changing, entire skills are changing, entire nations are changing. The entire concept of globalization is changing. Everything's changing. But that's where opportunity is unfolding, is if you can focus on the nature of what those changes are and what they mean. That's the type of thing that can drive you forward in the future. So if you follow me online, if you follow my daily inspirational quotes, I get up every morning. I've been doing this since August 2016, writing about something that is in my head, writing about something that is on my radar, writing about some trend that I'm thinking about. And this is what I wrote this morning. I took an old photo from a stage event somewhere, and I wrote, you're wishful thinking that we can just press a magic button to reopen the economy and go back to normal. It's exactly that. It's wishful thinking. I got a little button in my hand in the photo here, and it's not like that. And I think if you're of that mindset, you really need to challenge yourself. And that's what I spoke about with my client this week, a global commercial real estate and industrial real estate firm with a whole bunch of brokers. We had folks in Hong Kong, we had folks in London, we had folks throughout the US and Canada. We had 140 individuals in the call. And they were having a 2-day summit, and they wanted to focus on what's coming next. What do we need to do about it? And I'm going to cover that in a moment, but I'm going to try and come back to my chat window. This is how I will introduce it in future calls, and my little widget with my social media channels. The chat is ready to display messages. We're 13 minutes in, so it's certainly running, but maybe it's not feeding it back in. So I might have to go online and do a little bit further work with this to make sure my interactivity is working. So moving on, leadership. What are CEOs thinking about? What are organizations thinking about? What are the big issues of the day that we need to concentrate on? Well, my event this week really crystallized for me that organizations truly are back in the era in which they are trying to seek the insight into what comes next, and really what they should be doing about it. And that's what I was doing in my old life 3 months ago when I was appearing on stage in various locations around the world. And this I think, for me, gave me a real sense that we are at a turning point with what is occurring here. Now, I notice I'm getting a little bit of lag on my screen flipping here. I'm absolutely stressing my poor little Mac out, so it begins to affect my flow. So What was the situation? It was a company called Exis, a global real estate firm. And as I said, 140 individuals. And they were actually 2 days of Zoom. They were supposed to be meeting in Toronto, Canada, my home town. And obviously, as things unfolded, they had to cancel. They thought it important to bring together their global team because they are a new organization, a conglomeration of boutique real estate, commercial industrial firms. They are focused on collaboration. They are focused on teamwork. How do we build a fast team? How do we pull together global resources to attack some new issue or a new emerging deal or new challenge? So the leadership thought it was critical that they proceed full speed ahead with their 2-day summit to get some networking happening, albeit they're not doing it at the end of the day over some cocktails. That they did have a very intense focus with breakout rooms to examine some of the critical issues they were thinking about. But they decided, look, every single conference we have a keynote. We have somebody whose job it is to open up our minds to things that we're not thinking about. We are in our industry bubble. We are all consumed by COVID-19. We really need some good insight on what comes next and what should we do about it? Well, that's where I came in. That's what I've been doing on stage for 25 years. What comes next and what should we do about it? I quote myself as a futurist, trends, and innovation expert. Futurist, what are the trends that are going to define our world? Innovation, how do we challenge ourselves in terms of what is going on? Trends, how do we think like a futurist in order that we can develop a mindset in which we are constantly thinking about what we need to do to align ourselves to that reality. That's what I did in the old world, and all of a sudden that's what I'm finding myself doing in the new world. Now, the thing is, I've learned in this new world, you gotta have some humor, you gotta have some fun. And so obviously, if you saw my stage presentations over the last several years, you know that I've been talking about the Jetsons as a metaphor for the fact that the future is coming at us faster than we think. And I was thinking I didn't have the opportunity to use that anymore in this new world, but look, we do, because think about what you saw in the Jetsons. It's set in the year 2062, and already here today, they defined in the show the arrival of the home office. They defined online education. They predicted the emergence of telemedicine. They predicted the emergence of video calling. We're all doing Skype and GoToMeetings and Zoom and all of this stuff. So I've learned that the element of having the humor in this online keynote, it really works. And I brought in the Get Smart clip where their big issue was the future of the workplace. What's going to happen with the future of the workplace? Or, what are people going to do when they go back to the towers in New York City and Toronto and Singapore and Hong Kong and London? And you might remember this clip from last week where I was talking about the 1970s, 60s show Get Smart. And the new social distancing tool that they predicted in this show as we go back to the corporate world and what we're going to do to ensure that we're safe. So I'm realizing there's an opportunity for humor, but there is also a big opportunity to go back and look at the past as a way to predict the future. Hence, with that, I give you the Brady Bunch. You think about this, the Brady Bunch actually predicted the era of Zoom. If you think about the Brady Bunch, this show that I grew up as a 9-year-old, watched it with my darling late sister Dorothy. They actually had the prediction of Zoom technology in the show where everybody's in a grid and you're looking at them. So, I mean, I use this type of stuff and people got a really good laugh, but you also have to cover the serious issues. Their big issues were along the lines of, what are the transformative issues that are going to redefine our world, and how might it impact real estate in the future? What should we be thinking about that we're not thinking about? And the really big issue that they wanted me to address is, look, we're locked into crisis management. We're rewriting leases. We're managing leases. We're managing various complex issues for all of our clients worldwide. But what we really need to think about are the big ideas, the big thoughts, the big issues. Give us a 5 to 10 year view of things that we're not thinking about. And that's the tour that I took them on, because that's my job. My job is to take people out of their current area of comfort, their current area of what they're thinking about, and into a new era of what comes next. And, I think the biggest thing that we realize is going on with the future of the workplace is this new connectivity that we've built. We're all getting tired by Zoom. We're all getting tired by the incessant ongoing discussions we're having online. But what organizations are discovering at Furious Pace is new forms of productivity, new forms of collaboration, new forms of developing fast teams, we're developing new skills for capabilities that never really existed before. And I think beyond what has happened with COVID-19, this is a wake-up call for everybody that this entire concept of how we work and how we interact and what we do is changing. Yes, at some point in time, we're going to go back to a world of social interaction, but we have had such a collision of concepts with the workplace. The other thing I realized, and this came up in a lot of the Q&A, was the various books I've written through the years. The entire concept of what I've spoken about for many, many years is the issue of speed. The future belongs to those who are fast. Think big, start small, scale fast. The whole idea that we live in the era of acceleration, where what you really need to do is you need to challenge yourself to move quicker, to deal with the reality of what is unfolding. And as I started talking about that, and even throwing the phrase out there, think big, start small, scale fast, whoa, did that ever grab a lot of attention. So I think what is happening here, and this and other leadership conversations I've been having with several potential clients, clearly we've moved out of the shock and awe phase, and organizations are returning to the issue of now we need to move on to the next phase. In line with that, I'm working very, very fast with all of my various global speaker bureau partners. So some of my events are booked directly, but some come to me from some of the leading agencies in the world. So I've got ones who book folks like Barack and Michelle Obama and me. I've got some that book Richard Branson, and they also put my name out there. So I've been working incredibly hard with my various speakers bureaus to help them understand what I'm doing here in my home studio, which is far different from what any speaker, topic expert, talking head, political person can really do at this point in time. I'm working so fast because I think we live in truly an era of disruptive opportunity. I've been describing to people that 10% of the people who are out there today will become breakthrough performers. That's it. 10% of the people who are living through this transformative time will become the folks who truly come out the other side and have achieved transformative success because they've ridden the huge, massive trends which are underway. I fully intend to be a part of that 10%. So, third element, where are we going? Well, look, the future is still happening. I'm spending more and more time taking a look at particular industries, taking a look at older trends, taking a look at new trends, and as you heard in previous shows, putting these under a new microscope to examine what do they mean and what does it present in terms of opportunity. I think the biggest lesson I've learned over the last several weeks from the reaction I'm getting to these shows, from the various client events, from my broadcast to Australia, from the comments on my social media posts, is that people are realizing we are living in one of the most opportunistic eras of time. Yeah, there's a huge amount of economic pain, a huge amount of tragedy, huge amount of very complex circumstances, but at the same time, unprecedented opportunity. There are so many stories from previous economic downturns of companies, organizations, industries that were launched during really complex and difficult economic times. And I mean, I've lived through it. I had a column in a national Canadian newspaper called the Globe and Mail, writing on technology. I was devastated in 2001 when they killed the column. And the editor said to me, look, we had the dot-com collapse, the era of, dot-com companies has brought the concept of technology to a screeching halt. There is no more technology to come. The story's over. And you think about what has happened. And after that came YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, social media, Uber, disruptive ideas. It's crazy to think about. During the post-dot-com collapse, the tech downturn of 2001, we saw some of the most transformative technology ideas to have ever emerged. And as we work to build this new studio too down here in the home studio, we dug out some of my old books because we might put them up on the wall, and we got this one. It's called Selling Online. It's something I wrote in 1999. See if we can get it in the frame here properly. And it was all about the concept of electronic commerce. And it was all about, how do you set yourself up with an online store? How do you sell things online? And I fully remember people saying back in 1999, people aren't going to buy things on the internet. It's not going to happen. What a crazy idea. Well, look where we are now. The future of retail. I mean, it's all online. It's all boutique. It's all big box stores. I mean, there's so much change going on. It's staggering. So ideas are born in recessions. And ideas are born in an era of extremely fast-paced change. And we are truly living through the fastest era of change ever. I used a slide like this last week, by the way, and Terry Bloomstein, who's been watching this since show number 1, didn't like it. So I thought I'd throw another one out there just in case it had sort of the same impact. But it's all about velocity. It's all about speed of change. It's all about the staggering pace of change which is occurring today. And it's what you can do with your ideas, with your imagination, to watch the trends. One of the big issues that came out from this client event this week was, well, how do we become a futurist? How do we develop internal futurist insight capabilities? And that's a critical skill. You need to spend more time not obsessing and not tracking the current unfolding crisis and the political lunacy that is occurring in some countries around the world, and all the ups and downs that are occurring every single day as this unfolds. You need to spend a little bit more time in terms of the industry in which I work, what's happening, and where might we be in 5 or 10 years, and what do I need to do as a leader to align to that. You need to think a little bit more about the creativity and innovation opportunities that you might find going forward. You really need to get into that mindset that really captured the attention of the client this week. Think big, start small, and scale fast. That's absolutely critical. So I'm just coming up on 26 minutes. We'll come back to the chat. I really don't think it's working. But that's part of going live, and that's part of figuring out what to do in this new and complex world. It's another little project I got to figure out. And like I said, this is a massive issue of creativity and opportunity that I keep peeling back the layers of the home broadcast studio onion to discover new things that I can do and new ideas I can pursue. So hopefully a little bit more insight this week. I'm actually continuing on with this show. Golf season has opened up. I've got my golf hat ready for the days that I actually virtue out to the golf course. But I've committed to staying here on Thursday mornings in order to keep the show going, because I think it's important. This has become my learning opportunity, my opportunity for learning and continuing to build out this broadcast studio, because I think this is my reality for quite some period of time. So send me your comments. I promise to try to get the online chat working next week. You can reach out to me at 214-473-4850, 905-855-2950. I'm on Twitter at Jim Carroll. The website is jimcarroll.com. The show will be archived and blogged later on today. And last but not least, if you want to stay around for a moment, I can give you a little bit more of a studio tour to show you what is here. So that's it for the show. Stay around if you want. I'm going to grab my iPhone over on the other side of the room and turn it on, and I'll give you a little bit of a tour of what we can do. So the fascinating thing with the program that I'm using is I have a series of scenes that I can create. And into those scenes, I can pull a camera source. So right now, my camera source is coming from camera number 1. I can quickly add in camera number 2. And as we go forward, I've now flipped on my iPhone, and I can add in camera number 3. So I'll turn off camera number 1 and camera number 2 in order to go just to camera number 3. Did I do that correctly? I still have to try that again and just add in one source. So here's camera number 1. So this is what we've got behind the scenes. Live view as I'm back here in the corner. At this point in time, a bunch of studio lights, 2 video cameras feeding in via HDMI. The Mac over on the bottom left is the production Mac. That's actually an old 2013 Mac, which is taking the feed from the cameras, encoding them, layering the scenes on top, putting the frames around the images, running the videos. You might have seen there was some of those videos running in which there was a little bit of a lag happening. And that's because the poor little machine, 7 years old, it's being kind of stressed out in terms of what I can do. The big screen in the middle is the show monitor. So that's what I can see as being pumped out through the various channels and seeing that I'm hitting the right slides at the right time for the right purpose. The machine above is at camera level for my main camera so that I can see and am talking to you in the camera as opposed to talking to the production Mac down on the bottom. And then over here on the left, this particular Mac is actually running something called Restream, and that's the Mac which is taking the signal coming out of the production machine and feeding it out to Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube, and another Facebook channel. Oh, and here, this is important, that's my dressing room, that's my comb before I go live. Over here on this side, this is Studio 2, which we will be building out next week with a shelf, with plants, with book covers, and some really funky lights, and I'm going to use that for my show next week. And all of this, tends to be a canvas of creativity in which we can continue to explore ideas of what we can accomplish. Keep innovating, keep trying to do things you haven't done before, keep exploring the future, because when you think about it, the future is the only future you have. It truly is what you make it. It truly is what you decide to do with it. It truly is the opportunity that you try to find within it. And that only comes if you ride the disruptive trends that are occurring at absolutely staggering speed right now. Thank you for joining me. We will see you next week, 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That's it for now. Take care.